now we're into Q&A. This episode is taking forever. Sorry. Today's Q&A. I was assigned a manager that isn't very involved in my day-to-day and is very disconnected about everything I do. We recently had a review, but nothing was really talked about. He just told me to fill out our HR platform's review questions and to stand by. I finished my review questions a few weeks ago, but was never asked for a follow-up to discuss my performance, raise, etc. I just checked the website and saw that he did plug in my review, but none of it matches my actual performance. And he didn't follow up with me to go over any of it. The manager I have who actually sees my performance is happy with how I'm doing, and their opinion of me is so different than the quote-unquote manager who's supposed to review me. What do I do? One, this is shitty. I would just say flat out shitty. So one, I think a couple of things on this is that sometimes when a company gets to be, medium size or bigger than very small, you end up with a manager that isn't the person you work with every day. You're part of a department, even though you may work most closely with people from other groups or other departments. I think this is a really unfortunate situation because it shows a couple things. One, it shows that the manager is not putting in good effort to understand what this person is doing, how he or she is doing it, where they could be better in their career, where they're crushing it in their job. It just shows, frankly, a level of apathy that's disrespectful to the person here. I think the second thing about this is if I had a manager like that, I'd want to leave the company. And I think that that's one of the really unfortunate things about bad managers is that a bad manager or an apathetic manager can have a really big impact on somebody's career and how somebody feels about a company. People quit their managers, they don't quit the company. What do you do in this scenario? One, I would be aggressive and I would be proactive. I would say, here's everything I've accomplished this year. Here's everything I've learned and done this year. Here's everything I want to do next year. Here's everything I've learned. I would also be really vocal with what's happening in your performance review with either your HR person or the manager you actually work with. And I would also be forthright with the manager in question, which is if you ever have an opportunity or if you ever end up having that performance review to say, hey, you seem kind of disengaged with what I do every day. Is there a way that I can make this easier for you to understand what I'm doing? And I would really appreciate a more active level of investment in my career and what I'm doing. Second up, my boss is claiming my ideas as his own. I'm a female, and taking them all the way up to his manager and the company owners. My ideas. What do I do? That sucks. This is like Working Girl, where Trish works for Sigourney Weaver. Trish is Melanie Griffith. She's a secretary. She's got all these great ideas. Sigourney Weaver steals the ideas, takes them to Harrison Ford, tries to propel her career forward, doesn't give a shit about what Melanie Griffith is doing. This happens in business all the time. I remember this happened to me when I worked at Digitas, and I was like, I am going to murder my manager. Not really, I didn't murder my manager, although I did quit that job, but because people quit managers. But anyways, this sucks. So what I would say is clearly your manager or your boss is very insecure, doesn't have very good ideas of his own, isn't a team player, and doesn't have your best interest at heart. So those are what seem to me to be facts in this situation. I don't necessarily think calling your manager out on it is the best way to go about it. I think that just creates friction and confrontation. That person ultimately can be punitive to you. What I would do is make sure that the next time you come up with a whole host of great ideas, and I'm sure you as a woman have 1,000 ideas that are great, I would send an email to your boss and his boss and say, hey, I had a bunch of proactive ideas that I think would be great for the business, and I just wanted to share them. These are similar to some ideas that I had suggested to so-and-so, whoever your manager, whatever his name is, Doofus Face. I suggested these to Doofus Face. These are similar to my last ideas that I suggested to Doofus Face. So that might be a good way to solve this. The other way to think about it is to directly confront your manager about it. I would just be delicate in how you do that and be sure that you're being respectful, but also firm. And that ultimately, if you're going to go that route, to be sure that you are thinking through what's going to be the consequence of that conversation and what do you want to be the outcome of that conversation. All right, so how do you find time to interview for a new job without any time left at your current job? This is actually a great, tricky question. So obviously, prepping for a new job or prepping for an interview for a new job should happen in your off time, right? That can happen at night, that can happen on the weekends, that can happen when you're not working. I think one thing I would do is I would tell whoever the hiring manager is at new jobs, I would say, hey, I have a really intense work schedule from this hour to this hour. If there's any way possible, I would really appreciate if we could meet before that time or after that time. So see if there's any flexibility or give on the part of the hiring manager and see if you can structure or schedule an interview to happen outside of your work time frame. Maybe you get out of work at 5 o'clock and you could make the interview for 5:30. Maybe instead of doing all in-person interviews, some are in person and some are in Zoom. Worst case scenario, you're calling in sick. I always hate that one, but that's very common, so you can do that if you need to. But I would really see, I think the hiring manager would appreciate you being respectful of your current workplace and being respectful of your current work commitments. I'd be respectful of that, and hopefully that person will be accommodating to your schedule needs in interviewing for a position at their company.